What Ronnie Coleman displays here, it's almost an embarrassment. There's no way, shape, or form that Lee Haney would lose to Ronnie King Coleman. Lee Haney versus Ronnie the King Coleman. Wow, this is the reason why I started my channel to begin with, to do comparisons that never happened. Lee Haney, he retired after the 1991 Olympia victory. He undefeated. He retired undefeated. 8-time Mr. Olympia champion. Ronnie King Coleman, I believe his first Olympia was 1992, so they never did meet on that stage. Obviously, Ronnie King Coleman, he started his reign of terror in 1998. He also became a 8-time Mr. Olympia champion. 16. Is that right? 16? 8 goes into 8 odd times. 16 Olympia titles between the two of these studs. So this is going to be an interesting one. This, like I said, this reminds me of way back when I started doing these comparisons. Let's do some fun ones. Let's bring Ronnie King Coleman back from when he was a natural. Do some comparisons with that version too. That topic alone will get that comment section to explode. Is he natural here or is he not? I think I have video evidence that says he's natural. It's video evidence of him not taking steroids. Is that proof? Very interesting. Are they similar? They're similar structurally speaking. About the same height, same enormous clavicle width. But one thing we are going to want to pay attention to here is the fact that Ronnie has a smaller waistline. Isn't that funny? And we know what's going to happen as we go through the different versions. Let's start off light. Let's start off with Lee Haney's first Olympia, 1983, baby plea. And I believe this is 1991, Ronnie King Coleman, just a natural. Just a boy here. Ronnie never did that vacuum-style front double. Lee Haney, he would never do a crouching down, hidden dragon type flexed front double. So, opposites right there. And it's going to be an advantage for the clavicle, for the lats, things of that nature for Lee Haney. But look, if you will, at those guns of the King. He always had those great big arms. Look at that. Well, I'm sure he wasn't born with them. He'd have never made it out, but you know what I'm saying. He has the guns for sure. Lee Haney has the physique edge. Both men have some tremendous leg development. I would give an edge to Ronnie King Coleman on that aspect. Now, here's the fun part. This is the two of them, and I hope you paid attention to that midsection. Look at Ronnie. We are talking Casus belly, if I have ever seen one. Bodybuilding lost all meaning. Back in Lee Haney's day, there was still attention to detail, a healthy-looking physique. What Ronnie Coleman displays here, it's almost an embarrassment. There's no way, shape, or form that Lee Haney would lose to Ronnie King Coleman, judging by this midsection here. But Ronnie really can't be blamed for this. It was the criteria. The judges told them, you gotta get bigger. Even Jay Cutler, he said it best. I didn't want to be that big, but I wanted to beat Ronnie. So I had to be that big. So yeah, 2002, Ronnie came in a little bit petite, and they told him, come in huge. And he won. But judging by the midsections here, I mean legs, there's no competition. Arms. But guys, gals, if Sean Roden can beat Phil Heath 2018, surely they would look at these two midsections and say, well, we're going to give it to Lee Haney. We're going to go ahead and give it to Lee Haney. Ronnie. And to think he had that little tiny midsection. Wow. Now when people say 2003 was not his best, I kind of believe them, in a way. Look at how tiny his little midsection was. Arms were huge too, back in the day. Unbelievable. You guys having fun with this one? Let's continue on. Here is the two at their peak, at their best. And all jokes aside, guys, because saying Lee would beat Ronnie in that front double 2003, that kind of is a joke. Depends on who's judging it, though. I'm telling you right now, at least here, Ronnie kept his midsection in check. It matched everything. He was never a vacuum guy to begin with. He pushed the abs out, good separation, decent, more than decent. And when you look at the limbs, it is, I'll say this with all due respect to Lee Haney, it's boys versus men. He's just getting bullied around. I'm telling you right now. Of course, you wouldn't want to mess around with Lee. If they went at it, strikes and kicks and punches, I don't know. I might put my money on Lee. He'd probably snap those punches a little bit quicker, and that's really all it takes. Of course, a good old takedown, strangulation hold, work every time as well. Since we're having such fun, let us bring these two legends, these two greats, out at their final Olympias each. The 1991 for Lee Haney. He won. Ronnie King Coleman, 2007. He did not win. He didn't even place second. He got fifth. They gave him, fourth rather. They gave him fourth. He should have maybe he should have gotten fifth, but we shouldn't talk about the king like that. He was definitely still able to raise heck in the arm department. Look at the biceps, triceps. Still, he'll always be able to beat Lee Haney in that aspect. Lee is a stud. The last time he was out, looked his very best. Not too many can say that. Not many at all, actually. Here's the front lat spread. Oh, we're going to dive right into this one. This is 1987 for Lee. And for some reason, the 2002 of Ronnie King Coleman. We couldn't really find any earlier on shots of Ronnie King Coleman in the front lat spread. It's interesting. I figured he would have been able to be good at that with a smaller midsection, but I can't get over his facial features here in 2002. Unbelievable. And I would suggest, all wheels aside, it's always going to be a brutal beating as far as that's concerned. All legs aside, Lee Haney, he's winning. Now, this is Ronnie in his prime, 1998, his best, maybe. In this particular pose, I think it is his very best year, best version in 98. Look at the detail, guys. Look at the lats. He's beating Lee Haney at his own game. So, for you Lee Haneyites, and I know the Colemanites are not going to like this one, for you Lee Haneyites, let's have a look at them both in their last days as a Mr. Olympia competitor. A champion for Lee Haney and a fourth place for Ronnie King Coleman. He probably should have just called it quits after 06. But hey, I guess it shows his love for the sport. He really wanted to do it, I guess. But all leg size aside, because even here, Coleman is taking Lee Haney to school. Lee Haney looks like he has beef jerky, and that's really no disrespect. It just means that his legs look dry. He looks very conditioned. And the upper body,
blooming like a flower. She's my flower, and I'm her butterfly.
Anyway, turn to the side, and we have Coleman from 99. Do we have no earlier on shots? Coleman in the side chest? What do you mean they're blurry? Well, that's no excuse. Anyway, thickness, huge, traps. I mean, look at the chest. Look at the arms. Coleman. Legs, it's a little hard to tell due to the stance. Let's just face it, the side chest is not the most interesting comparison between these two studs. Here is them, I guess both at their peak size. This is that 03 where Coleman's midsection was a little bit much. Sure. Look at Lee Haney's midsection. He looks shredded here. Shredded to the diced. You guys made fun of me about that. At least one guy, but I mean, one person out of 53,000? Maybe there was more. Do you guys like shredded to the diced? Let me know. Comment section below. Here's the side tricep. I think Lee Haney, he has a much more aesthetically pleasing side. He has that big man's chest, and this is Ronnie in 98 when he was in his prime. Good midsection, but still, from the side, just not the best. The tricep itself, it's good and peeled, but so is Lee Haney's. And Lee's looks like a great big lobster claw, or like a big bird beak. And Coleman looks more like a horse shoe, not horseshoe. That's terrible. That's terrible. Forget I said that. Here is the two at their largest. Probably. I think it's 88 for Lee Haney, is it not? He's switching to the other side here. He could give you both. He could deliver each side. And I think back in the day, a lot of them could. They could do both side chests and both side triceps. Having said that, the mass of this Ronnie King Coleman, if you're going to be serious about this, I mean, come on. But if you're going to be, just pretend you're new to the sport, you don't really necessarily know that all that mass and conditioning is that important, I think Lee Haney would be winning this 6-0. How many poses has there been? 4-0, whatever it would be. Of course, there's the back. And with no lack of trying here, Lee Haney, for his time, he had thick lat insertions, and even in this comparison, his lat insertions, very thick, good, wide lats. But come on, Ronnie is a different animal altogether. They're not the same species. Ronnie is an alien. He's a cow. He's a great big buffalo. He is a ginormous whale tank. I mean, you call somebody a whale tank, not really much way you can recover from that. But having said that, Ronnie King Coleman, he is making Lee Haney look little. He's making him look not very conditioned at all. So all of those front shots, midsections, things of that nature, aesthetics, yes, Lee Haney, he is on top of the world. But this is where they say Olympias are now won from the back. Man, like I said, he's not a cow. That's a female. That's a heifer. He's a bull. He's a great big bull. Oh, okay. We're gonna do it to Coleman, are we? This is them. Their final days. Not very fair for Lee Haney. He's tilted thusly. Just to be fair, let's tack on a good straight-on picture here. Now this is interesting. Lee Haney is beating Ronnie Coleman from the back point of view. Of course, the lower half, Coleman he's still a buffalo. He is a fucking buffalo. For sure. Look at the lower half. He's an animal, a rhinoceros. Lee Haney's still human. But the back is just too much here. It's all deteriorated away. All those years of heavy lifting. Just no lightweight baby here for Ronnie King Coleman. And as far as Lee Haney is concerned, wow, does he look good. Here's the back double. Both in their primes here. Both at their peak. Kinda detect a little bit of a striation there in the badonkadonk of Lee Haney. But make no mistake about it, lads and lattices. The body fat percentage of the 1980s versus 1998, well, especially Ronnie King Coleman. There was other guys that were close to Lee Haney's condition, things of that nature. But Coleman, he is on another level as far as size is concerned. Genetic goodies, the genetic grab bag of goodies, Lee Haney's back, probably better than Coleman's. Those are some big words, but those are some big, thick lat insertions. But more than the size, it's really how they attach to the lower back. They just sink down there all that much lower than the King's, the great King. But come on, guys, let's face it. We all know Ronnie's beating Lee Haney. Here is the two at their last. This is the final stretch of the race. The battle of attrition. And Coleman, he gave it his all. His conditioning, definitely not as good as it was. He's not that 0% negative 3% body fat. I think he can get to 3, and then 2, you'd be dead. You'd be dead. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what percentage of body fat Ronnie Coleman is here versus Lee Haney. Because Lee, I'll be honest, 91, he was getting more shredded. If he was back in 92, he would have been peeled to the diced, to the socks, as Louis Marco would say. And by 93, geez Louise, you never know how big Lee Haney would have been. Might have beaten them all. Coleman included. So, their final days, I'd have to go with Lee Haney. Now, here's the abs and thigh. Lee Haney, it is actually difficult to get earlier on versions of him hitting this pose. I don't think it was his favorite. He probably preferred a vacuum. Now, Coleman, little underrated, I have to say. I think most people just suggest, oh, Coleman's abs and thigh and his side tricep, terrible. This is him. Maybe one of his last IFBB wins. It's the British Grand Prix, is it not? 2005? It's not 04, is it? I think it's 05. Either way, he is holding his head up high. One of his last times out there, and hey, it could be his last win versus Lee's last win. That would be maybe more fair than putting him out there from that 07 Olympia. Maybe a little bit disrespectful, but the Lee Haneyites, I'm sure you would have demanded that. Oh, finishing off with a nice little comparison between these two guys. If you believe Coleman was natural, or you believe that he was just taking a little bit of stuff. Lee Haney, I'm sure in the 80s, let's face it, he was a genetic freak. I'm sure he wasn't taking a whole lot of stuff, so this is probably as close as you're ever going to see a totally natural, most muscular pose down that actually would beat most people. Because it would probably be laughable to see a 100% natural bodybuilding pose down. They'd look like skinny twigs. But these guys, I mean, this is the very best of the best. No question. No questions asked. 8 time each. Nobody beat that. So what do you guys think? You naysayers that don't believe anybody was ever natural, what do you guys think? That these guys wouldn't still be the best bodybuilders? If everybody was natural, of course they would be. So remember that.
Steroids
do not make champions. Champions make champions. Or, training. Things of that nature. I should have said things of that nature make champions.
And the steroids
are just their happy little helper. Ooh, here's the both of them all juiced up. Even Lay. Prince Leia. Even Lee. He's all jacked up here. That previous picture was from 1990 when they were tested. But he was already doing the juice for years, and your muscle has memory. So he was never really 100% natural, even if they were tested. Right? He's pretty jacked here, though. But Coleman, he is luxurious. In 1998. 99. 99? Yes. I'm going to bone up on my bodybuilding trivia. But no matter how you look at it, no matter what version of Lee Haney you use, if it's the 99 or even the 98 Ronnie King Coleman, no judge in the world would give it to Lee Haney. But if you're using their previous versions, like the supposed natural Ronnie King Coleman, versus your straight-up Lee Haney, Lee might take that version of Coleman. I actually think he would. Now, what about the battle of attrition? What about the marathon race? Who wins the final days? The last Olympia for each of these guys. You got Lee Haney, who was good, his all-time best, probably, peeled, most shredded. He was awesome. Posing was on. I mean, this guy was unstoppable. And Ronnie King Coleman in his last days, you seen the back. You know his conditioning wasn't what it used to be. Still probably close to what Lee brought. but the aesthetics, he had arms. Look at it, even here he has the guns, but I'd give it to Lee. So Lee wins 2-1, right? He's I know you Colemanites, you guys are not going to agree with that, but come on. Lee Haney, 8-time Mr. Olympia. Ronnie Coleman, 8-time Mr. Olympia. Both of them, nobody can boast about having that many Olympias. Well, Iris Kyle, but I guess that's a different story altogether. So at the end of the day, Lee Haney wins this video comparison to two versions to one, but ultimately the 98 Coleman wins it all. And of course, that big distended midsectioned 2003, that would beat Lee too, I can imagine. Have a great one, guys.